a lot of newer games are just better on the PS5. You've got the haptic feedback, the proper HDR, the optimized graphics. We've also seen a lot of amazing Japanese games recently, which tend to be more console-focused. Every game on this list I've actually played. Some of them way too much, honestly, but this is my genuine take on the best games you can play right now on the PS5. Sup guys, I'm Patrick, and I thought we'd start with a brand new title from Capcom. This time they've moved into high-concept sci-fi with their action-adventure title, Pragmata. Despite its long development and existential trailer vibes, what we've actually got is a refined linear action game that feels like a big-budget summer movie. You play as a heavily armored spacefarer, navigating a near-future lunar station. It's a sleek, polished experience that swaps the dark claustrophobia of Resident Evil for bright, high-contrast lunar vistas. The core loop focuses on the partnership between your protagonist and Diana. Yeah, that's the little blue jacket girl you've seen everywhere. Mechanically, it functions as a highly polished shooter where Diana acts as your ultimate gadget, rewiring the environment and triggering massive super moves to clear out glitchy AI. Think of BD in the Star Wars Jedi series, something like that. In an era of bloated 100-hour open worlds, this is a tight-focused 12 to 15-hour campaign. It's a weekend burner that tells a complete cinematic story and exits before the mechanics feel stale. It's a perfect title for a younger audience too, looking for a big console experience that's not too complicated or terrifying. It's a confident, fun-first odyssey that shows off the modern era of gaming.
Let's do our best!
Alright, next I've got another new one for you. If you want to see the exact moment the open world genre moved past the rigid templates of the last decade, you have to look at Crimson Desert. Developed by Korean developers Pearl Abyss, this game is a massive single-player epic. You play as Cliff, a mercenary leader navigating the war-torn continent of Pywell, a place where the environment feels like a physical, reactive force. Also, to say the world is massive is an understatement. The technical insight here is the proprietary Black Space engine. Most modern games use pre-baked animations for combat, but Crimson Desert leans heavily into procedural physics. It feels very next-gen. Now, the game had a huge hype train, but after having played around 20 hours so far, the hype is warranted. Maybe it doesn't have the charm of Elden Ring or The Witcher, but it's definitely got its own thing going on. What's impressive is how it balances its overwhelming scale. While the world of Pywell is gargantuan, the game doesn't get bogged down in the survival slop. It's a high-octane blockbuster that's intentionally designed to be enjoyed by a wide audience, offering that epic movie feel without forcing you to manage 10 different hunger and thirst bars. In terms of length, the game hits a sweet spot for a modern epic. You're looking at 30 to 40 hour main story, which can easily stretch into 80 if you get lost in side content and world exploration. It's long enough to feel like a true journey, but tight enough that every region feels distinct and purposeful. Because of the flash style of the combat and the sheer variety of things to do, from taming dragons to massive castle sieges, it's a bold, confident step that proves you can have massive scale without losing the fun. Our next game I fell in love with as soon as I saw the trailer. Dragon Quest VII Reimagined is the definitive way to experience one of the series' most controversial entries. To understand this one, you have to look at the sheer scale of the original project. When it launched on the PlayStation in 2000, it was a monolith. A game so massive it took over 100 hours just to see the credits. The real mechanical shift here is the diorama visual philosophy. The developers ditched traditional high-fidelity 3D for a handcrafted aesthetic that looks like miniature figurines in a living dollhouse. By presenting the world as a series of intricate self-contained dioramas, the game creates a sense of focused energy. It makes the world feel manageable and fun to explore, swapping the endless grind vibe for a high-octane journey across forgotten islands. The gameplay has seen a massive upgrade with the moonlighting system. In the original, mastering jobs was a legendary slog. Now the reimagined version allows your characters to equip 2 vocations at the same time. It's a standard JRPG loop but polished to a mirror finish. Square and the team also addressed the elephant in the room, the length. while the original had a famous 4-hour intro where you didn't even see a monster. The reimagined version gets you into the action in under 30 minutes. It's a much tighter 60 to 70 hour campaign, which sounds long, but for a world this big, it's actually incredibly lean. It tells its massive story of time travel and tragedy and exits before it overstays its welcome. It's a confident, fun first reimagining that proves even the most old school legends can rock in 2026, if you just know how to trim the fat.
Who are you?
Look, gaming isn't getting any cheaper. Between the 30th anniversary editions and the massive open world epics, your wallet could be hurting. That's where instant gaming comes in. Whether you're hunting down the old school legends or jumping into the modern releases like Crimson Desert or Resident Evil Requiem, you shouldn't be paying prestige prices for digital copies. We're talking to up to 90% off the titles that matter. No subscription traps, no hidden fees, just games you want, delivered instantly to your library. Because the only thing that should be tough is the difficulty curve of Nioh 3, not the price tag. Hit the link in the description, grab your keys, and stop overpaying for the hobby you love. Instant gaming. Play more, pay less.
Come on.
Kojima's sequel to his walking simulator experiment is a massive, high-budget pivot into a more traditional action adventure. Death Stranding 2, On the Beach, takes the foundation of the first game, hauling cargo across a broken world, and injects it with a heavy dose of cinematic combat and high-tech gadgets. It's a much flashier, faster experience than the original, trading the quiet isolation of the American wilderness for a sprawling, dangerous journey across Australia and Mexico. The core gameplay still revolves around navigating rough terrain, but it feels like a standard action blockbuster now. You're equipped with much more aggressive weaponry to handle ghost mechs and a rogue militia, making combat feel like a refined evolution of the Metal Gear Solid 5 stealth action loop. It's the kind of game where you're constantly rewarded with a cool new gadget or a massive mind-bending cutscene. It doesn't just look pretty, it feels smooth, responsive, and far more like a traditional gamer's game. It's a tight cinematic experience that respects your time, while delivering enough weird Kojima energy to keep you hooked. Most JRPGs ask you to pick a command from a menu and then sit back to watch the animation play out. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is not a JRPG, but it completely kills that passive loop in a way that I've not seen since The Legend of Dragoon, way back on PS1. Developed by Sandfall Interactive, this is a high-fidelity evolution of the turn-based genre. It's set in a surreal version of France where a goddess known as the Paintress wakes up once a year and paints a number on a monolith. Anyone that age instantly turns to dust. You're part of the 33rd Expedition, the final group of survivors aged 33. They're making a desperate one-way trip to kill her before she paints the next number. While you still plan your moves in a tactical menu, the enemy's turn is just as active as yours. You can dodge, parry, or counter every single incoming attack in real time. If you time a parry perfectly, it takes 0 damage and can even trigger a powerful follow-up. It effectively takes the precision of Sekiro or God of War and stitches it onto the skeleton of a classic Final Fantasy. This removes the waiting that usually makes younger players skip turn-based games altogether.
Gustav, we got something for you.
Visually, the game is an Unreal Engine 5 showcase. It moves away from the typical muddy brown and gray of gritty fantasy and leans into a vibrant Art Nouveau aesthetic. Everything from the character design to the twisted, painterly landscapes feels like a living canvas.
Perhaps one of these artifacts may prove useful to your mission.
It's a pretty standard RPG in its core structure, but the flashy execution and the constant engagement make it feel like a modern action blockbuster, rather than a slow-paced spreadsheet. It also respects the fact that most of us don't have 200 hours to burn. The main story is a tight 30 to 40 hour campaign. It's the perfect length for a focused, cinematic journey, delivering a heavy emotional punch before the mechanics get repetitive. Between the cool factor of the parry system and the high-speed pacing, it's a perfect entry point for players that want the depth of an RPG without the boredom of traditional turn-based combat.
Don't turn away from us.
Yeah,
Capcom decided to celebrate the 30th anniversary of its biggest franchise by doing something incredibly ambitious, bringing the story full circle back to the ruins of Raccoon City. Resident Evil Requiem is a massive bridge between every era of the series. Released in February 2026, it serves as a new standard for modern Resident Evil.
He grabbed you for a reason.
The mechanical heart of the game is its dual protagonist architecture. You're constantly swapping between two completely different gameplay styles. First, you have Grace Ashcroft, a character who isn't a soldier. Her segments are pure, old-school survival horror, slow-paced, puzzle-heavy, and focused on hiding from multiple persistent stalkers. Then the game flips the script and you take control of an older, legendary Leon S. Kennedy. Leon sections are high-octane action, bringing back the parry system and briefcase upgrades that made the RE4 remake so addictive. Personally, I'm kind of bored of the action in RE, and I prefer the puzzle sections of Grace Ashcroft. The horror playing as her feels real. Technically, Requiem is a beast. It's the first game in the series built exclusively for current-gen hardware, and it shows. The RE engine delivers native path tracing. You've also got the ability to freely switch between first-person and third-person perspectives at any time. It's a technical achievement that finally ends the perspective war among the fanbase. What's great about Requiem is that it doesn't overstay its welcome. You're looking at a tight, focused 15 to 20 hour campaign. It's the perfect length for a cinematic horror experience, telling a massive emotional story, and exiting before the loop feels repetitive.
Made you who you are.
It's a confident masterpiece of a celebration that proves Resident Evil is still the king of the mountain in 2026.
I'm coming with you.
If you want to understand the exact moment Hazelight Studios decided to stop competing with other developers and start competing with the very concept of a single genre, you have to look at Split Fiction. Released in March 2025 with a Nintendo Switch 2 port following in June, this game is the definitive evolution of the formula.
We don't know yet, but we need to find a solution before the machine takes damage.
It's a boundary-pushing co-op adventure that effectively turns your console into a high-speed channel flipper, jumping between entirely different game worlds every few minutes. The analytical insight between Split Fiction lies in its dual narrative interplay. You play as Nioh and Zoe, two writers with completely opposite styles. Nioh writes hard sci-fi, while Zoe is a master of high fantasy. After being hooked up to a machine designed to steal their creative ideas, they're sucked into a simulation where their stories are literally colliding. 1 minute, you're taming a dragon in a lush fantasy kingdom, and the next, you're fighting as cyber ninjas dodging hover cars in a neon-soaked city. It forces the player to engage in a constant state of adaptation, mastering a new, fully polished gameplay mechanic for every single level. From a technical standpoint, the game is a masterclass in Unreal Engine 5 optimization for split-screen play. Building a game with this much variety meant that Hazelight had to develop dozens of one-off mechanics, from gravity-flipping stealth to rhythm-based battle dances, that only appear for a few minutes but feel as polished as a standalone title. The developers at Hazelight reportedly discussed making the entire game about one specific mechanic, but decided to save it for a grand finale, maintaining their unparalleled variety philosophy through the 10 to 12 hour campaign. It treats its tactical limitations not as a burden, but as a visual budget upgrade. Culturally, Split Fiction has landed as a masterpiece of emergent bonding. It follows a buddy-movie narrative where Nioh and Zoe, who start as total strangers, must slowly sync their actions and timing to survive. It remains an essential play in 2026, because it remains the only modern title that successfully merges cotton candy fun with genuine mechanical depth, selling over 7 million copies by its first anniversary.
Look, I don't mean to be rude and all, but I really don't do small talk.
Darwin's Paradox. It's a 2.5D cinematic platformer that plays like a Pixar movie. You play as Darwin, a tiny octopus who's been abducted by aliens and dumped into a high-tech industrial factory. It's a pretty standard puzzle platformer, but the fact that you're an octopus changes every single interaction. The mechanical hook is all about the cephalopod physics. You're using suction cups to walk on the ceiling, squeezing through tiny pipes to bypass guards, and using ink clouds to blind security cameras. It's a high-stakes stealth game, but it's wrapped in this bright comedic exterior that makes every failure more funny than frustrating. I'm a huge fan of Oddworld and Inside, and this gave me all those same vibes. Visually, the game is stunning in its simplicity. It uses a clean, vibrant art style that looks incredible on PS5. The character animations are perfect, the way Darwin squishes, stretches, and reacts to the world is full of personality. It's a technical achievement in squatch and stretch animation. It's also a great palate cleanser game. The whole experience is a tight 4 to 6 hour campaign. It's short, punchy, and tells a complete story about a little guy just trying to get back to the ocean. It's a fun first, confident indie hit that proves Konami still knows how to pick a winner. We got a review copy of this one and I totally loved it. Definitely a well-made game. Citizen Sleeper 2, Starward Vector. Released in April 2026, you once again step into the decaying metallic body of a sleeper, a digitized human consciousness owned by a megacorp. You're an outlaw on the run with a hijacked ship and a ragtag crew, trying to stay one step ahead of the company that wants its hardware back. The mechanical heart of the game is still the dice system, but it's been overhauled with a high-stakes push mechanic. Every cycle you roll a set of dice that'll dictate what you can achieve: hacking terminals, repairing your ship, or socializing with crewmates. The twist in the sequel is that your condition now affects the dice directly. If your robot body has fallen apart, your dice can actually break, capping your potential until you find rare parts. It turns the game into a desperate study of resource management under pressure, where you have to decide if completing a job is worth the permanent wear and tear on your systems. Visually, the game is a masterclass in lo-fi sci-fi aesthetics. It's pretty standard narrative RPG in structure, but the atmosphere, dripping with a melancholic industrial vibe, makes it feel far more intimate and grounded than your typical space opera. It's a confident, soulful masterpiece that proves the best sci-fi stories are the ones about the people living in the cracks of the machine.
All I ever wanted was to touch eternity for an instant.
If you want to see the exact moment the survival genre traded mindless crafting for the absolute vertical dread, you gotta look at Cairn. Released 2025, the game bakers collaborated directly with Alex Honnold, the world-famous climber from Free Solo. You play as Ava, a professional climber attempting to conquer a peak that has never been summited. It's a pretty standard adventure on the surface, but the mechanical depth makes it feel like an industrial stress test for your fingers. The real breakthrough here is the simulated climbing engine. Cairn gives you total manual control over every limb. You have to physically place your hands and feet, manage your center of gravity, and constantly monitor your grip and fatigue meters. It turns the mountain into a high-stakes engineering puzzle. If you reach for a hold that's too far without securing your feet, you don't just lose progress, you fall. Technically, the game is a masterclass in organic environmental design. The weather system is equally brutal. Sudden wind gusts can literally blow you off the wall, and the rain turns a safe route into a death trap. On PC and PS5, the haptic feedback is a game changer. You can actually feel the vibration of a loose rock before it gives way, forcing you to make split-second tactical decisions about your route. The most compelling story isn't at the top of the mountain. It's in the struggle of getting there. Team Ninja finally stopped playing it safe and blew the doors off the formula with Nioh 3. Released in early 2026, it takes that legendary punishing combat and drops it into a massive open field. The sheer speed of the combat makes everything else in the genre feel like it's moving through molasses. You play as Takachio, the future shogun, caught in a war that's half historical drama and half supernatural nightmare. You can swap instantly between samurai style, which brings back the stamina managing ki pulse we all know, and the new ninja style, which replaces blocking with a high-speed mist dodge. It turns every boss fight into a high-stakes rhythm game, where you're constantly shifting stances and styles to find a gap in the enemy's defenses. It's flashy, it's aggressive, and it rewards you for being a total show-off. Technically, the game is a beast on PS5 and PC. The shift to an open world hasn't killed the frame rate. It's still locked at a buttery smooth 60 FPS, which is non-negotiable for a game this fast. It's a confident masterpiece of an action game that proves you don't need to change the soul of a series to make it feel brand new.
Welcome to the dark, dystopian future of 2053. You are Noah.
Lovecraftian horror finally escaped the cheap jump scare trap and moved into high-fidelity psychological dread with Cthulhu: The Cosmic Abyss. You play as Noah, an agent of Ansile, a secret Interpol division. It's an investigative thriller where the mechanical weight of the corruption system makes it feel like an industrial-strength panic attack. Noah's mental state physically alters the architecture of the station. As your sanity drops, the geometry of the hallways begins to warp. Doorways disappear and the laws of Euclidean space breaks down. One thing you've got to respect is its focused narrative. While the ocean floor is massive, the game keeps the story to a tight cinematic 8 to 10 hour journey. It's the perfect length for a dread-heavy thriller, delivering its massive cosmic revelations and exiting before the mind-bending mechanics lose their impact. It's a confident, atmosphere-drenched masterpiece that proves the greatest fear isn't what's waiting in the dark. It's what your own mind does when the light goes out. Alright folks, that's the list. Please leave us a like if you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.